So happy today to welcome Amy Novotny. And what she does is really interesting to me, primarily because I am so interested in the nervous system and we don't talk about it enough. And how you tonify it, how you nourish it, how you treat it, and what you do about it is somewhat of a mystery to modern medicine. And it's been an interest of mine for a long, long time. So, Amy, please welcome. I'm so happy to have you here and tell us a little bit about your journey yourself and how you got here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Jennifer. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I always enjoy sharing and helping people learn more about their body so they can change it and feel better. So my journey started, I got my doctorate in physical therapy, but then switched out of that after about 5 years of practicing, working with people in sports and orthopedics. And I switched over to looking at the nervous system, looking at people in chronic pain. And that led to me developing a technique to helping calm the fight or flight nervous system. And as I started progressing into that world and diving into that world more and more, it began to help people with stress and anxiety. And at the time when I was developing this, I was training to qualify for the Boston Marathon, which I accomplished 4 times. And I was on a treadmill and I started playing with my body position and my breathing mechanism. So when I paired the two together, all of a sudden I felt all the tightness in my body leave. I didn't have any aches or pains. I stopped stretching. I stopped rolling. I stopped scraping. All these things that I used to teach people as a physical therapist to do stopped. And I felt like I had won the lottery. I could move. I felt free in my body. And so then of course, when you stumble on something, you're like, okay, what do I do? Was this something that everyone already knew about? Or am I late to the game? Or is this something I'm really stumbling on? And I realized, okay, this is something I really stumbled on. How do I put it into a process and help other people? And what exactly is happening? So that became my new focus. What was happening? Start studying about the nervous system, start studying about that fight or flight mode and how to get rid of it. How does breathing come into it? How does body position come into it? Because that is definitely not a topic that anyone talks about in relation to the fight or flight nervous system. And then why could I get people out of pain, stress, surgeries, all these things faster than traditional methods? And so that's led me to where I am today with my own business practice, and I work with clients worldwide.
That's incredible. That is like so exciting to figure something out like that. That's really the secret formula to so many people's suffering. I mean, think about all the pain medication that people are taking, all the suffering that people are experiencing. That is really extraordinary. And 4 times the Boston Marathon. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. Oh
It
my
was amazing experience. There's so much history in that race. Every mile of that race, you look around and you say, okay, this has happened, this is incredible.
And are you still marathoning, or is it something of the past for you?
No, I did one last year before the pandemic hit. I haven't done one this year. I'm not sure if I'm going to do one this year or not. It's just been a little bit more business focused and other projects going on. But I've done over 40. I've done 10 ultra marathons. So it's definitely part of my existence. And I'll get back into it likely next year when things have calmed down with the pandemic.
Yeah, it's really interesting that because ultra marathoning is a whole nother category. I
It
mean,
is.
it's a whole
It
nother
is.
mindset, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
really intense. I know a few ultra marathoners in my world. First of all, it's an amazing community.
Mhm.
You guys are a really special quality of human, but also the recovery. Like there's no like you to have your body taken away from you to not be able to do the things you love it's a really big deal.
Mhm.
So almost is this technique you probably have used on yourself over and over again, or is it like one and done?
No, this technique, it's a practice. I use it, I mean, every single day. You want to shift your body. So this is your new way of breathing and holding yourself.
Mhm.
Because once you felt how free you can be, like a little kid, free flowing, you don't want to go back to the way you were. And so in the middle of ultra marathons, I mean, I did a crazy stint in 2017 to challenge myself. I use this in the middle of races, but also to recover because it started in January where I ran a really fast marathon to qualify for Boston. 6 days later, I ran a 100-mile ultra marathon in the mountains without any pain going into the race. I was a little bit sleepy and tired, especially when I hit about mile 60. But then a month after that, I ran a 100K, which is 62 miles in the mountain. And a week after that, I ran another road marathon, and a week after that I ran a 50-mile ultra marathon in the mountains. And it was all to test my body to see if I could calm myself down enough, exist pain-free, so that I could run another race.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. Now, I've been, I don't know if you know this about me, and I apologize for not saying doctor,
It's okay.
because I really want to honor that, all this experience you have, not only just in your own personal life, but also professionally. So that's an accomplishment. That's a
Thank
huge
you.
accomplishment. So I've been practicing yoga for, gosh, almost 30 years. Well, no, Iyengar yoga for 27, and then, regular yoga for another 5 or so. And it's been, for me, it's been a huge journey into the nervous system, to understand the recovery process, and to understand, especially with the breathing techniques and certain postures where we, what we call in our method, like tonifying the nerve fiber.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that resonates, because I really don't know about your technique, but when I speak to you about that, what is that? Does that seem like woo woo? Does that seem interesting? Does that seem aligned? I'm just curious.
Well, I find it interesting, and I know yoga helps so many people out there. And I think that there's a lot of benefit that people get from the different exercise positions associated with yoga. And I know modern yoga is very different from ancient yoga and the purposes of ancient yoga. So what we have now that we call yoga is a lot of different exercise positions and holding positions, and then you do a certain type of breath work with it. And I would say that the breathing that I teach can often be, it's different than what I hear most yoga teachers are teaching, because I'll often work with people and say, please do this type of breathing in with your yoga to get the effects that we're looking for to calm down your nervous system. And unfortunately, and which is good and bad, there are so many different techniques of yoga and yoga instructors and their background and knowledge. So it's hard to make a blanket statement that I'm completely different from yoga in this way or this way, because sometimes I've met some yoga instructors who teach a very similar type of inhalation or concepts, but it's still not the same thing as what I do. It often complements it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, like what we have in the West is so different than what it actually is, or what the intention of it actually is, which is fascinating. So when we talk about the breath, I do want to, all of my clients, it's really clear that the breath is like the closest thing we have to shifting, right? And it's physiological, right? From your parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system. It could even help people with their compulsive eating disorders. It can help people, well, what we find right now, anxiety is rampant. It is like in young kids, in adults, everyone is experiencing massive amounts of anxiety right now. What is one thing, if you wouldn't mind, that maybe our community could take from your experience that could help them, something simple and something with their breath, because there's no mistake that it's designed right in between the head and the heart, right? And then there's all these glands right in this area. For me, it's like the most treasured thing is knowing how to use the breath to shift.
Yes. So a couple of things I would mention. A lot of times we put ourselves in a position that's in fight or flight mode. If we think about the way we breathe, it is actually determined by how we hold our rib cage position. Okay, because our diaphragm is attached. And so if we hold our ribs in a certain position where we lift up our chest, pull our shoulders back, now you are not going to use your diaphragm. So what you're doing right now, you're taking away your diaphragm. Because when you lift up your ribs and sit in that perfect posture, you're now lifting up the walls of the diaphragm, which is going to make it less stable and less space for the dome to contract. So instead, if you sit all the way back in your chair, let your low back relax, let your tailbone curl under you. Now let your ribs relax down, let your belly come out. A couple other things I tell people is make sure your feet are flat on the ground. And when they're flat on the ground, check the height of your knees. You want your knees at the height of your hips or slightly higher. If they're lower than your hips, you're going to turn on your back muscles, which is going to crush on your fight or flight nervous system and going to ramp you up. So lower the chair, put some books under your feet, and I just worked with a client on this. As soon as we got her knees at the level her hips are slightly higher, boom, her back relaxed. She just realized, oh my gosh, I feel so much calmer. And that's just based on your body position. Now, when we breathe, if we let our belly button come out when we blow out, you can feel your rib cage drop down more and you'll feel yourself relax. And there's more to this whole process, but this gives people a general sense. You breathe in through the nose, you pause a second, blow out through your mouth as if a straw was in your mouth, and let your belly come out, and then hold your breath for 2 to 3 seconds. Okay, and then you repeat the process. So something as simple as that and working through that, I can't tell you how many people have gotten rid of their back pain, their neck pain, their shoulder pain, their toe pain, their whatever pain, just by practicing that alone.
Amazing. You know, it's like hydration, right? Like it's such a simple, basic thing, and your breath, and we just don't even realize it. We just don't, we forget, and myself included. I feel like I'm like better than anyone, myself included. I've been practicing pranayama for like, 22 years, like, more than 60 minutes a day. So it's like, and I still forget. Oh, it's really powerful. I love that. So Amy, how do you work with people? What, like, have people wanted to learn more about what you do, learn your technique? Like, how can they get in touch with you and learn more about your work?
Absolutely. So I do this through Zoom. It's all Zoom. I have clients all over the world. I teach them this. It's a process. It's not just a once and done thing. It's a process to shift your nervous system. And so I have a website, obviously, like most people, and it's PABRinstitute.com. So it stands for Pain Awareness Breathing Relief, PABR Institute.com. And they can go there, they can find out information. I also do the free 15-minute consults. They can reach out to me, Amy, AMY, at PABRinstitute.com, and just say that they heard me on your show, so I know what I've shared with them already and it's not so repetitive. But truly, anyone can learn this stuff, and they can shift themselves out of these, just whatever their pain point is.
Yeah.
If it's
anxiety
physical,
is real. Yeah. Physical or emotional. Anxiety is coming from a lot of different angles. And, this whole coaching conversation I find is really limited because it's like circulating here in the brain, and then people are making themselves wrong, and then they're getting like ashamed, and then they're like bypassing. It's like this big game of intellect. And it's really just kind of dysfunctional, actually. And I'm saying that as like a very well-trained coach who writes coach training programs, who mentors and trains coaches. Like, I'm really into coaching. But this breath, like, this is, I think, the answer, and the fastest answer. And of course, as a busy woman like yourself, we've got to find efficient solutions. And this is the efficient solution. But do people call you Dr. Amy, or what do you prefer?
A lot of people call me Dr. Amy, or I don't go with Dr. Novotny. Usually as an introduction, people say Dr. Amy Novotny, but a lot of times they end up becoming my friends and they say me. So I'm not so formal.
Right on. I was curious what you do. Clearly you run because you love running, but like, what do you do to just like restore yourself? Like, what is your daily practice or something that you do in your life that really recharges you and resources you and restores you?
Yeah, so when I first wake up in the morning, I curl up in a ball sitting upright because that actually helps the body get into a neutral position. Oftentimes we flail around and move around in different positions when we're sleeping at night. So if I can sit curled up in a ball and actually practice this breathing, I can put myself back into neutral, calm everything down, no matter what happened at night. And then, of course, I get up and I run. I practice the breathing while I'm running. And then during the day, when I have different meetings, I actually set aside break times. I put in 15-minute slots in between each of my clients and meetings to make sure I have time to decompress, get up, move around, walk around, those types of things. So that way I'm not overlapping too much and I'm not shoving my day with too much, because by the end of the day, we're usually pretty ramped up from whatever stresses or whatever emotional turmoil we've gone through during the day. So again, I take some time to go for an evening walk to decompress, to breathe, and to calm down.
It's beautiful. Wow, it's pretty elaborate. It sounds almost like the fetal position, but you're upright.
Yes.
Oh, it's so cool. I do believe a morning routine is so critical.
Mhm.
I think that, everyone can attest to that, but so many of us struggle to actually implement a morning routine. And there's always a number of excuses.
Yes.
But I really want to encourage everybody listening today to think about a simple morning routine that's going to make a difference for you. And for me, the breathing, and especially this position that you're describing, I'm curious to try. But the breathing really sets the tone for the day. It's almost like, how you brush your teeth or you brush your skin in the morning. It's almost like you're brushing your field. You're brushing your nerve fibers. I know that sounds kind of strange, but brushing seems to be something we're all familiar with in the morning. Brush our hair, brush our teeth,
Yes.
And to tune in with the breath, it gives me a really clear access point of like, what is in the space, what is the weather, and you can
Mhm.
really use the breath to shift it once you learn a few techniques. Um, well, I'm so delighted to
Absolutely.
have met you today.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
I appreciate the time. Thank you for sharing your fabulous host and have great questions. I really appreciate our time. Thank you so much.
Be well, and reach out to Amy if you'd like to take advantage of the 15-minute free session. That's what I heard
Mhm.
you? Yeah,
Yep.
and learn more about this breathing technique because freedom is right around the corner, folks. We just have to get the right techniques to learn how to access it. Be well.